institution where you find that a person look at the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Daybreak on Trust Television. Time for us to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. And we have Nelson Omonu Yakubu, publisher, the Summit Post News, with us in the studio to give perspectives to some of the stories on the front page. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Now, we begin with the Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story there talks about scores of bandits, 13 soldiers killed in Zamfara, Bauchi clashes. The writer says dozens of Zamfara villagers killed in airstrikes, crossfire. 3 military vehicles burnt. NAV confirms dual mom on collateral damage. And also gunmen killed 28, burned houses in southern Kaduna attack. All of that details on page 4. And also you'd find above that a female hunters joint fight against bandits in Taraba. That's on page 17. 2023 polls. Political parties accuse governors of sabotage. On page 10. Arms deal. Okupe convicted pays 13 million naira fine on page 24. Also, the pictorial shows you an interview with Ambassador Shehu Malami, 1937 to 2022 rather. Well, it tells you basically the life and times. Buhari mourns death of Sokoto Prince. His last interview on page 3 of the Daily Trust newspaper. You'd find also hit by cash crunch. Ghana suspends foreign debt payments on page 19. And then at a footnote, you'd find scores killed as canoe conveying traders capsizes in Kogi. Abuja train accident. Level crossing used by victim illegal, says NRC on page 22. Kano PDP governorship tussle. Abacha, Wali, Bello, no fate Thursday on page 11. These are the major stories on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, next we take a look at the Leadership newspaper, and it goes political with its headline, 2023 polls, INEC, EFCC, police, others move against vote buying. And details of that are on page 4. It comes with riders here that says, PMB assured me of free and fair elections, says Atiku, and my administration will be worker-friendly. That's according to Tinubu. Okube's conviction attempt to implicate me, says Peter O.P. Now, that's a major story on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. And other headlines here, protests rock Abuja over alleged plot by DSS to remove Emefiele. Details of that can be found on page 7. Federal government releases proof of Twitter negotiation after suspension, and Sokoto Prince Shehu Malami dies at 85. Twitter users vote for Elon Musk's resignation. Going towards the top of the front page there, below the masthead, pro-procurement law hindering budget implementation. This is attributed to the federal government. And at the very top there, military, police kill 52 terrorists, bandits in Zamfara, Bauchi. And money laundering, Okupe pays 13 million naira fine to avoid jail. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of the Leadership newspaper this morning.
All right, now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper this morning. On the Punch newspaper, the lead story there talks about rising attacks, vote buying threatened polls, INEC cries out. You also would find the writer says, Commission says violence may mar election, prevent presidential poll winner from emerging. You also have electoral body plans, supplementary budget to replace destroyed buildings, equipment, others. IG, EFCC boss, warn politicians against inducement. Survey puts 33 states on vote buying watch list. Now, you'd also would find above the masthead, court stops Emefiele's arrest, Groups back CBN governor. Naira redesign will affect poor Nigerians, SMEs, says World Bank. FG begins 11 power projects, plans 3,750 megawatts generation. And also, Air Force battles Zamfara terrorist, 50 bandits, soldiers killed. You also would find below the pictorial there, money laundering. Okupe pays to 13 million naira, escapes 2-year jail. At the very bottom, you'd find protests as Lagos policemen enforcing ban kill motorcyclist. My husband confessed to oral sex with my niece, doctor's wife. FG plans 2.4 billion naira rehab centers for repentant terrorists. These are the major stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
Next, we'll take a look at the Nation newspaper, and it carries this headline on the front page: Workers to get better deal, Tinubu assures NLC TUC. And the writers here says ex-Lagos governor presents plans to union leaders. Labour gives APC candidate charter of demands. Now, at the very bottom of the front page there, civil societies to EFCC, shun politics. And another interesting story, woman disarms kidnappers, free 3 hostages. And towards the top of the front page there, below the masthead, petrol scarcity persists as motorists groan. Marketers seek equity allocation. Obi's campaign DG jailed 2 years for money laundering. And at the very top of the front page there, above the masthead, how we will stop vote buying by IG and INEC. And bandits kill 28 in southern Kaduna, raise many houses. Details of that can be found on page 5. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
All right, looking at the Guardian newspaper, the lead story there talks about electricity. It says APC failed on 40,000 megawatts promise, rations 4,000 megawatts. You'd find also below the masthead, again, terrorists kill 38 in southern Kaduna, Sokapu claims. Politicians unhappy with moves to block vote buying, says INEC. You also would find at a footnote there, 240 million naira laundering. Okupe jailed 2 years, released after paying 13 million naira fine. Terrorism sponsorship lawyers, CSOs uncover plot to implicate Emefiele. You also have Eregbeshola Oyetola trade blames on Oshun death profile. Also, alleged killing of northerners in southeast is false alarm. Political, says Ohaneze. So these are some of the major stories on the Guardian newspaper this morning. Let's get more perspectives on some of the stories. Thanks again for joining us, Nelson Omono, on the Daybreak show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, quite a number of stories on the front page this morning. Let's begin with the scandal now of Doyin Okupe, who is the DG campaign of the Presidential Campaign Council of the Labour Party. You'd say that, well, the Dasuki Gate, we are not over with all that has to do with the Dasuki Gate just yet. If you look at this recent conviction of Doyin Okupe, what do you make of this?
Yes, let me begin with the reaction of the Labour Party presidential candidate that is an attempt to frame him and all that. He got that wrong. The due process of the law is taking its course, and we should applaud the court of law for doing what is right. Those are isolated cases. Okupe's conviction and his appointment as the DG of the Labour Party presidential aspiration. So it's not about Obi's presidential aspiration or anything. It's about the law running its full course. Is of course, if he's found wanting, and Okupe is replaceable. So to try to
Yeah, so
drag political dimension into this.
But when you look at it, this is a case that has been in court since 2009, right?
It doesn't matter
And,
when judgment, when the
judgment is coming now.
When
so
the judges
perhaps maybe that's why he's
when
thinking.
the judges are seen to, feel they have done their due diligence and they are supposed to pass judgment. So if we do that, what we are technically doing is to disempower our judiciary to be able to stand to whatever. So if you think, like, let me use a case of Trump. There was a riot at the Capitol Hill on the 6th of January. I think that was last year. And he is saying they are trying to rope him into it is political and all that. Okay, what was his action at the time that riot was taking place? That is what is in question. This judgment is coming because Okupe has a hand in the whole arms. Supposing he was able to exonerate himself, as it has to do with his complicity. This judgment won't be coming. So our people will say, if you wash your hands clean, rat won't come for you in the night. So political meaning to this judgment is just useless at this point. If he feels that judgment has dented, has created credibility problem, of course he hires and fires. The Labour Party, of course, can also take other decisions.
Well, but how much do you think this will affect the Labour Party's campaign as it is right now? Is it going to knock the wind out of their sails?
Nothing. I don't think Okupe is much of a political capital for Obi's ambition.
But they must have held him with very high regard to give him the DG of the campaign council.
Most of the people that follows Obi's aspiration are there because of Obi, not because of Okupe. Let's get something clear. Like I mentioned earlier, he has no political capital such that if he is removed or anything, it can dent. It will not affect a hoop if he is removed or this judgment is inconsequential. If you ask me, it will only be consequential if he is left to remain to still hold that post after this conviction, because Obi's aspiration and when the arms gate took place are very, very different times. So it is very difficult, it is impossible to link the two periods. But if anything, if he is left to remain on that seat, despite his conviction, that is where an indictment might likely come, in my opinion.
All right. Well, we have another story here of the Abuja train accident where a staff of the NTA was killed, in the process of trying to cross the rail line somewhere in Kubwa. We have a response from the NRC, that's the Nigeria Railway Corporation, saying that the level crossing used by the victim was illegal. And that's a response that we're hearing now. This is a few days after that staff has been killed in that incident. And that's a regular route that a lot of people follow, actually. And it's not, it's common. People use that commonly in that area. So, but this sad incident happened. Why does it appear as if it is when something sad happens that we take actions?
Yes.
So, for instance, the NRC knows that this is an illegal route. What was done about it?
That is the side point of our development. We wait until things happen, things goes bad, then we come. It has to do, if this can also explain why some of the security issues we're having, it seems to the terrorists or bandits or whatever we call them seems to be ahead of us. We only react when it happens. Now, what will it cost the NRC to like any area prone to public trespass or breaches? Then you cordon off the place to ensure that people no longer, because I think she was driving across. And it was possible to barricade where you think people are breaching, so that for the overall interest of the operation, the train system and the safety of life also. Because if you can control few, you can't control everybody. And people always look for so-called happier way, to get to the other side instead of go to turn through.
Yeah.
So our institutions will need to up their games, because that is another indictment. Though as a staff of NTA and a journalist, that is regrettable. But then the institutions, our institutions will have to up their game. Like NRC has a whole lot of questions to answer, because if we are not there yet, but we see in other climes what the kind of safety measures, you see they spend lots of money to where they feel individuals will likely trespass.
Yes.
Or maybe drive across, or...
And then there are designated crossing points.
That's right.
As well, along the rails.
No, we have stubborn behaviors, both economic and social, that you can't take away from us. And a lot of reorientation needs to be done. If it comes to Nigeria, our ability to, our penchant for breaching normal social or normal rules is just unbearable. The same place we're talking about, if you go to most of our major roads, you will see that bike riders will just break down some barricade so that it will be easier for them to be able to cross over to the other side where it is not permitted. So it is what happened in Cuba is part of the overall challenges of behavioral challenges, societal challenges, behaviors we are having. Except there's a reorientation. We are still going to continue to face some of these issues. Like I pointed out earlier, as a journalist, you stand a better chance to tell others of what to do, but not to be caught in the...
Okay, so basically the responsibility doesn't lie solely with the NRC now to actually make sure that these places are cordoned off, just like you said, but it's a societal
That's right, it's a societal thing. If you discover that even if there's cordon, even if there's some barricade there, you will see that Nigerians will try to pull those things down to be able to, so that they can take happier way. Shortcut.
Well, quite a sad one, really.
Sad.
We pray for comfort for the family. All right, now we will move on to other stories. We have this story, the lead story now, talking about scores of bandits, 13 soldiers killed in Zamfara, Bauchi clashes. We've heard about airstrikes as well. It says dozens of Zamfara villagers killed in airstrikes and crossfire. This is what you may say collateral damages when you are having such a battle, at hand and all of that. But how much have we managed, issue of collateral damage in our fight against banditry, really?
Well, for the families, those that have been dying and are still dying in Zamfara communities and all that, sympathy goes to them, and may God repose the souls of those that lost their lives. But 13 soldiers die in an operation. I think that we in the last few months thereabouts, we see a scale down of insecurity, especially in Zamfara. The reported cases has been on the decrease, but this coming at this time is very sad. But I think our fighting force, they are doing their best, the best they can. They are paying, most of them are paying supreme sacrifice, but they are determined to fight on. That is commendable. But like opinion leaders and experts keep advocating, we should deal more with technology for precision, so that we can save the life of these traumatized villagers in Zamfara and the rest of them. Our hearts go to them. Government should invest more in technology.
At least to reduce the collateral damage.
Is to if the US can launch from somewhere and just pick up someone in another country with great precision, I think it's a product of investment in the right technology, satellite technology, to be able to pick your target instead of random. Maybe
but sometimes that could actually be difficult in a situation whereby these terrorists are using the people that are there as human shields. If they integrate themselves into the population, then
that is to say that you avoid random strikes, so that because the people they are using as human shields also, they are not part of the crime. It's just that they are caught in the crossfire. So you look for the best method of picking up these people, and maybe intelligence gathering, for instance, invade the community, not as a fighting force, but as maybe men undercover, to be able to penetrate these people, identify who and who is a terrorist, and map. We have seen foreign operations where people come to, though that I will not want to mention this now, but a particular country in the Middle East came for an operation in another country. They checked into a hotel. Maybe, no, they put on dressed like a room attendant in that country. All this happened. So they were able to gather all the information they need while they are communicating with, and they were able to pick the 3 men they came for.
So it's not about military might now.
Intelligence.
See, might is failing us. Because if we want to apply the full force of the might we have, that is why so many innocent people are being caught in crossfire. But if we do more with intelligence, underground operation,
it will help with the precision.
It will help a great deal to avoid killing innocent people.
All right, let's talk about political stories now. Rising attacks, vote buying, threatened polls, INEC cries out. You also would have where the INEC chair is saying that politicians are unhappy with moves to block vote buying. We also have the issue of the Naira redesign will affect poor Nigerians, SMEs, poor Nigerians and SMEs. That's according to the World Bank. So we have a sort of a dilemma here. On the one hand, there are people who believe the redesigning of the Naira notes will help curb the issue of vote buying, and the new policy of the cashless policy of the central bank will help, curb vote buying. But on the other hand, we have concerns that this policy and also the new redesign will, affect poor Nigerians, especially in the rural areas, the unbanked, communities, and all of that. How do we find our balance here, and how do we make sure that we reduce the effect or the impact of this, as much as we also desire to have a much more freer and fairer elections?
Well, in the area of vote buying, I don't know how INEC wants to handle that. However, the redesigning of Naira is like a forceful idea whose time has come, especially as it has to do with our election. Overall, if it's going to mitigate vote buying, but we are still having issues. Let me take it from the SMEs and the unbanked spaces and all that. We are ready. Nigerians are ready to pay the price. If the long run or the medium-term benefit is going to supersede, as we speak, the kind of currency that people are pulling out, currency of 10 years, 15 years, that has been stored in some strong room underground and all that. That revelation alone is enough that the initiative of CBN is well thought out. Is well thought out. At least let them pull out the money. Some of them will not be able to change the money anywhere, because even if they engage all the bank managers in Nigeria to do whatever they want to do, they won't be able to finish.
Are you really sure about that? Don't forget that we have, virtually in every sector, and including the banking sector, some bad eggs who will always compromise and go through the back channel.
But so many of them, and it will now have to do with what EFCC, whether EFCC is up to its game or it's neutral or is determined to fight or to fight this through. I think the financial system we have now is so transparent enough that the EFCC can virtually monitor movement of cash and question the inflow of cash into certain accounts. So, if you ask me, the redesigning of Naira, push or pull, we have some gains, but it comes with some pains. But in any case, nothing comes without, no development comes without pains. But then, in the area of vote buying, it will practically be impossible to control vote buying where you have hungry people, where you have majority of the people, sliding into poverty. Even if, we are beginning to see little drop of the new currency. Up till now, some have not. If you use it for transaction, they will tell you what is this. They've not started seeing it. So the CBN will have to up its game also to be able to convince. See, it has to do with bridging the gap through communication, letting Nigerians know that this thing is coming. We know there are pains associated with this, but this is a price we have to pay for so and so. We are able to know this because we were exposed to information. But the ungoverned the unbanked spaces you're talking about, rural areas and all that. See, over time, we've seen a wide gap developing between the communities. I'd like to use this example again, that when we were growing up in rural areas, one of the things that brought government closer to the people was information officers. On any government policy, you see them come with a vehicle with very big screen on it. They will demonstrate this to villagers, what government intend to achieve with this. And by that, including there were things that our fathers were able to explain, though they were unlettered, but they were able to explain even to their own children why government decided to take so policy.
So it is the issue of sensitization now comes.
Sensitization is in comatose. The agency of government, like National Orientation Agency, that should be in the forefront of this. I don't know if it's the problem of funding, or we are not getting our priorities right. The government, maybe if it's a problem of funding, that means governments don't see the need to interface with the people, bring the people as part of the system. And one of the effects of this is that people begin to take laws into their hands. It also goes to explain the insecurity we have. Because when people feel alienated, especially in the area of social and economic dynamics, they try to look for space.
All right. Now let's take a look at the lead story on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Workers to get better deal, Tinubu assures NLC and TUC. So yesterday we saw that interface between the APC presidential candidate and the organized labor, here in the nation's capital. And one will, ask the question. You have NLC, which is more like the main umbrella, carrying Labour Party that has a presidential candidate, Peter Obi, and now you have this interface. How far will these assuasions or persuasions go with between the NLC and Tinubu?
Well, first, let's begin with the fact that NLC is a national body. TLC and the rest of them, they represent wide segments of our society. So listening to various candidates of various political parties is what they should do. And it's the right thing that they have given other presidents, apart from their own political party and the presidential candidates, giving others a listening ear, I think is the right thing they have done. Persuading them is what, because the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress was also, as a party leader, he was there in 2014, 2015. If workers are going to get better deal, Nigerian voters will judge based on when the campaign around the country made promises and they were given the mandate in 2015. It depends on what he, as the party leader, his follow-up actions when they were voted into power. Was he on top of his voice? Or maybe making demand on the president that, look, this is what we asked and this is what we promised Nigerians.
All right. So quickly before we go, there's also a story on the leadership that I wouldn't want us to go without mentioning. Twitter users vote for Elon Musk resignation. So he put out a vote on his page asking if he should step aside. And the people voted, more than 50% of the people voted that he should indeed step aside. Let's not also forget that since he, came in as the, CEO of Twitter, a lot of controversies has trailed, his, being in that position. And there's certain changes that, Twitter is making with its policies and the rest of them.
Elon Musk is a good businessman, digital global citizen. He is good at what at doing business. Very bold. We like him. His ideas are out of this world. He thinks another world, generation to come.
It's almost as if he thrives on these controversies.
However, in this is the first time he's coming to social space such as this that has to do with not tangible product. This is not Tesla. He is not producing maybe something and maybe taking to the market to sell. This is influence. This is the mind of people you are trading. Now, most of their big-time advertisers are withdrawing because of some decisions he has taken. And that vote, the figure there is even supposed to be more than that because he's missing it. People will say, if a fowl comes to an unfamiliar environment, it will start to stand with one leg until he's able to familiarize. Immediately he was coming. He started with the people you're meeting in the establishment, those that have been part of this thing from the beginning. Why not wait to go along with them, understand the system before you start rooting them out? Instead, even from outside, he already started announcing pulling out all these people. And that he is no longer able to have a grasp of the system. He was supposed to have said, okay, guys, come. Let's work together. We can make this happen. That would have assured advertisers that listing Nissan and the rest of them, they've all, though not pull out completely, but they have paused their dealings with Twitter to watch what is going to unfold. And from what information we're getting, Tesla is not doing any better since he became the CEO of over 22 billion of Tesla share is what he deployed into this. And even the shareholders are not too comfortable with the way, because he has moved their money from here into divested their shares. And they are not too comfortable. And overall, I think he profits from some of these controversies.
Yeah, really. Well, it appears so. Anyways, well, we hope that he gets around these things, safely, so that he doesn't,
and please, quickly, before I leave, you ran a documentary before about people not getting married because of the economic. If a 32-year-old man 37 years old man is waiting for the economy to improve. That means he's going to prepare to get married when it has to do with our societal values. We have to start working on it. That let's return to how it used to be, because everybody wants everything to be in place before.
All right. Well, that's a word of advice to some of the bachelors out there from Nelson Omonu Yakubu. He is the publisher at the Summit Post newspaper, reviewer this morning on Daybreak Show. I hope that you heed to that advice. We'll take a short breather now, and then when we return, we'll take a look at other issues on the program. Join us again.
But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that